Hi, people. Wow, lots of stuff is coming through, and if you try and ignore it, it's one of these things that doesn't want to kind of go away. It'll just hang there because once the thoughts have been, let's say, downloaded, they're there. Anyway, so there we are. If there's been identification with them, so there we are. It's just quite simple. It's actually a lot of stuff. Wow, it's actually so simple though. It's logical. So here's a very simple explanation of the physical matter. And you'll see, I'll do that one first. Why you perceive yourself as physical, why we perceive anything still as physical matter. We don't need to. A lot actually don't already. And that's why there's different experiences here. Some are experiencing themselves as awake in beings, but still as the body, in the body. They still believe it's their body and they're having a human experience. And so they're awake to the fact that they are source. And there are some that are experiencing no body. No physical body, not being in a body, nothing to do with the body. Some don't experience any of that. And there's also something I want to reference, which was interesting. In the Bible, don't ask me, it's a long time, I don't remember. There's a story there, I think it was Emmanuel, that went outside, got awakened being a Gnostic, Christian Gnostic, that was practicing this. They went outside and literally vanished, into light, like just, the light just grew, became light, and disappeared. I'll explain that, makes sense now why, into different dimension, because... So let me try and break it down. Give you the science thing as well. I've shared on my page recently. This will help explain it. Molecular, under a microscope, of course, because it's a story. So you'll see the scientist watched water become ice. So all you see before it is its source. It's just form. It's just lots of, like you are. You are made up of so-called trillions of atoms, right? Now, science will also tell you your so-called cells or atoms are billions of years old. They were once a planet, so it's just taken a different form. It was once a planet, a star, whatever else. So you can't say it's your body. That's the story. This is a story. So science will tell you your so-called cells are billions of years old. And they are just the current pattern that has now formed a body. So this is easy for you to explain. I'll try and start it here. So if you look at that video which I shared where these molecules are now, you can see them just moving, energy. It's just vibrating. It's just energy, loose, single, separate. As water, they're just being Now, the minute it forms a solid thing, so-called solid thing, it crystallizes, if you want to say. Shah talks about energy crystallizing, right? That means it solidifies into a solid form, which is now ice. What you see, and what happens when it does that, it takes on a structure. Did you notice? If you look at my video on my page, you can go and see it afterwards if you haven't seen it. It forms geometric pattern, blockchains. This is what you are. When something is defined as well, same with you saying it's a body. I'll go into that. You can perceive there's no body here, not at all. All that does now is that those millions of cells source its energy, just a field. There's nothing. It's nothing. Now, because you as conscious, the awareness, the source of all, you are creating everything. It's only consciousness here. There is no matter. You now say you have a body or are a body. You will experience that. So now what you've done is exactly what is under that microscope. The so-called water, free energy moving freely, has now taken up a solid form. It will solidify, tick, 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 tick. So a lot of people waking up, still believing they are people, still identified with the body, are seeing geometric shapes. They're seeing the underlying structure. Yeah, this is the underlying structure by nature. You're still seeing a structure, a form, geometric pattern. Why? Because you're still saying you are a point in time and space. Yes, I am, but I'm here in this dimension. How do I explain this? You are defining that you are having an experience in a set dimension as a human being. You see? So you are seeing a structure because you have created this. You're saying, well, I'm a third dimension, or I'm on earth, I'm here, I'm there. You're saying you're defining your consciousness as you're putting yourself, you see, there's still a separation, as a thing in time and in space where you're not a thing, you are not an object. And I've experienced that. You don't even have, you will not even have experience of the body, the physical experiences, the sensations or anything. And lately you've been practicing that, where you're well aware, you can feel there's just this empty field. That's what I'm saying. It will dissolve back, but it's, as I say, momentum, and takes time because all the cells now have got this whole little program running. That's another thing, all these programs are downloaded, it keeps repeating, keeps taking the same pattern. So this is why you don't focus on anything. As I say, you're just awareness. You don't create a story. You don't listen to a thought. You don't have a concept that I am here experiencing anything. Now, our galactic family are well aware, if you see, as light beings have appeared, and a lot of you have communicated with these light beings. There's no physical body there whatsoever, even angels. They have no physical body anymore. They're not confined, as Bashar will even tell you, to a dimension. They are multi-dimensional. They move in between so-called dimensions. They appear in our so-called reality as not physical beings. You notice energy, they can take in any form, as a ball or whatever, and they disappear. Orbs, ET shapes, forms, whatever. Why? Because they've stopped defining themselves as a thing in a time, in a set time, and a set space. And this is what I said a long time ago. You've got to stop. I'm not a human having a human experience. That's a story. It's a concept. You are saying, you see, the minute you are saying I'm in a human body or I'm having a human experience, that's exactly what you will create. An experience of a body with its sensations and its sound. You come out of the body, you don't experience any of that. And if you pay attention, what you'll see as well with the thoughts, a lot of people are already experiencing this in the awakening journey, is when you say, as it's dissolving, you're aware that the downloads, you're well aware, the minute you wake up, say you're staying in the consciousness and awareness, you'll see it. It downloads the story again, poof, the next day. The minute you identify with anything, the mind, the thought, the minute you use this mind, so-called mind, it's not in the physical body, but it is a construct. You're well aware it's a construct. It's a story generating construct. That's all the mind is. It's nothing. It's not visible. There's no brain. There's no mind. There's no thing. It's not tangible. But so I'm going to explain this because you don't even see a thought. Literally, you don't physically see a thought. You don't see a J in your mind. You don't see it form a J or a picture form. Sometimes memories. That's just story there. So when you pay attention, though, you will feel it, as I say, when you've exited this body story, there's no perception of a body. Those that do astral travel out of body know this. You, as the oversoul, all you've done is now moved into another space, into another story. And you can actually experience yourself in that body as that person, as a story in another life, blah, 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 at the same time. But Bashar calls them oversouls, but whatever you want to say it is, you are pure, non-visible awareness or consciousness. That's it. You see? So if you pay attention, you will feel nothing. Just emptiness, expansive space. But you're also aware of these so-called feelings, which you see are them as chakras. So I'm saying it's just all it is. You're forming this pattern. Is you feel them. They come, it's not your energy, but you're feeling a field, you're feeling energy move. And when you start using this and it gets busy and you're paying attention to it, you'll feel the energy is very active around that. Because as that picture shows, there's only energy. It hasn't got, you're experiencing it as a physical thing as well now, not transparent, under a microscope, because you still believe in physical matter and you're a human. So you will perceive it. You're going to see some sort of solidified thing. It's going to show that to you, which is that microscope story I shared with you, right? But you feel it, as people feel well aware. You can feel the so-called body energy vibrating, your cells vibrating, the physical so-called body changing, because it's changing in frequency and vibration. The cells are, each little molecule, each atom. So really what exists are those things, those atoms. It hasn't even got a solid form. It's waves of energy. It becomes a particle because you are saying it is. I'm a table, I'm a chair. You see, the minute you have labeled something, it now can't change because you're saying that's a daisy and that's a shape it's got and it's got to stay like that. It will never change because you've now labeled it as a thing, as an object in time. It's a plant and it will look, so it will maintain that structure, that pattern. This is all the so-called body you think you are is, and this is why people are starting to visualize the so-called Merkabas or physical structure, geometric shapes. That's all you're seeing, is that the so-called energy, you, source, is taken on a form. You see, solidified into a pattern. It's a flower, it's a person, which it isn't. How many trillions of cells, which are just, as I say, it's a projected image. So this is why these beings and others do not experience themselves in a set time, place, dimension, physical. They're not stuck, and so are you. It's you. There's only consciousness here. There is no matter. I can't get this more through if I tried. There is no such thing as physical matter whatsoever. You are believing in it and defining it. So what will happen is now all those so-called cells, you'll feel energy vibrating with whatever story they listen. Energy is completely conscious, as now science is showing. Your cells, everything, all of it, because that's all it is. Energy is listening to you. And whatever you say, believe, is source, it forms it. Okay, so now you notice I'm healing my body. I'm going to change this. What happens? It changes. The so-called body changes. You heal yourself. Now Joe Dispenza is proving that. So, but then you're not realizing one bit past that. You're still believing you're a body. So you're focusing on a body which you are healing. So you're still experiencing a body. Some gurus who have passed down teachings and have taken on their teachers' teachings believe they are experiencing a body too, and but there are many beings that I'll tell you. I've shared a few. There's an Asian lady on here that I've shared who's telling you exactly that. It's a program. And when you stop listening to that, exactly as I say, this is what humans are experiencing. Because all these so-called programs are being held by the cell. I'm a body, and this has happened, and these stories, what you experience is a cycle of time, as they say, like a tornado, pyramid, up, down. This is all it is. The consciousness is cycling through these, a story up and down, and it keeps repeating the same story because you haven't overwritten it or ignored it. But to return to the self is to drop all of it. Any concept of you, literally. You do not exist. Finished. There is no you that is in existence. And that's exactly what you will experience in your return to everything, which is no thing. You're not an object. You become the reality itself. You do not experience any noises, any thoughts, any body sensations. Unless you are still at the stage where you believe you are soul source, but you're having a human experience through the body, you will experience that. And if you believe, you see, I'm in this earth plane, I'm having a physical experience as source, that's what you will experience. You see, defining, but a lot of, I'll tell you, there isn't even an earth. There's nothing out there. It takes shape, literally, as they're seeing it, it forms. So what you're seeing, a story is formed. So this is what I'm trying to explain, and if this is why I shared the video yesterday of the so-called, under a microscope, water at a molecular level taking on a structure, geometric patterns. It's because everything you're defining as the divine, there's people, there's me. You see, this is a collective story. It's been going on and going on. There's people, there's a house, there's a tree, there's a car, that's a flower, that has this name. You've named everything. So you've now crystallized the structure. It appears as a structure, as a set structure. And it can't change because you're the one who's sitting in the same loop. That's a flower, that's a house, that's what it looks like. You see, you've named it and labeled it. No, it's nothing. And if you can return to nothing, it can be re-seen, reshaped, relearned. That is true. So this is why some will tell you, and you can feel it. What you're actually doing, if you pay attention, you can feel the waves of energy, is the mind, so-called mind storyteller, is interpreting frequencies and vibrations, moving energy into thoughts, words, stories. That's all that happens. There's moving energy and vibration, which is being interpreted by the mechanism called the so-called mind story maker into words. You're physically aware of it. I mean, you can, well, not physically aware, I can't explain that, but you can watch it and you can feel it as you wake up, especially when you're out, when you're in a very quiet calm, before the story starts and the ripples start. And the minute immediately the brain takes one action or step, because it takes a while to drop this, you'll see the story downloads. The minute you even try, because there's still a belief there's a you, try and focus, try and stay out of the mind, try anything. Not just stay as nothingness. There's a trying, that's what they say. it'll download the program, whatever held in all. That's why people say it's not stored in one place in the cells, because there isn't. There's trillions of cells pretending they are a body, taking on a structure of a form, which you see as geometric patterns now, whatever stage. But a lot of, that's what I'm saying, this, you see, do you understand how there's different experiences? Because the ETs do not have this concept that they are physical. They're in a place, they have a body. I'm experiencing human. Yeah, you're not experiencing, that's what you're saying. Do you understand? You don't. You can experience yourself as the reality, and the body is way, like, there's no physical bodies here. You don't see them. You don't have any sensations of them. It's just, you're aware of it. You're aware of what it's doing, but that's it. Same with that. You can hear the programs. That's what the gurus tell you as well. You just ignore it. It'll download. If you keep ignoring the parrot and all the stories and the concepts and belief, this is the most important. If you identify with anything that's got to do with the body or the story, it's got a life, or because that'll download immediately in the morning. Bloop, it's like your past downloads. The program clicks in, and it goes on. And it's nonsense. It creates a whole story about a past and a life. I mean, meanwhile, none of this exists, you see. So you can experience no matter. You can have that freedom of being whatever. Best is not to take on, you see, as long as you're claiming you're an object in space and time, you are creating that reality immediately. Now, there's a planet, you see, the house, car, that is all nonsense. It's all created. It's source named, and it's taken on structure, as you'll see. It takes on a pattern, a form. So now it's solidified as a frequency. It's a set. Now you've almost made the self, part of the self, stick at a certain frequency. This is why you feel the density, and they say humans are such a dense energy or dense field you're experiencing. Why? Because it is so-called, you are believing you're in a physical experience, physical matter. So everything here has now become, as you notice under that picture, feel water, moves much faster, higher frequency. Now you've made it ice. You've solidified yourself, so-called yourself, into a form of a body. I'm a human body. Now that is matter. You're saying it is. You're believing it. So it is going to be a much lower frequency because it's got to form a geometric pattern and lock. Poof. You've made structure like the ice. I've made the body into a physical matter object, and I'm going to structure. The table, structure. Oh, there's a plant. Oh, structure. A tree, you see. If you don't label anything, there is no thing, nothing. Even yourself. It doesn't exist. There's no person. And you stick with that, and you don't go with the stories as it appears in the same, program as it loads. My bypass, my brother, that's me, whatever. It just goes, you watch. The more you, as I say, they say, don't identify it. It will return to itself, to nothing. But still, what was not cognized here is that still, no matter what guru, whatever it was, still believed, you see, because this is what's all taught, that you are still here. I'm still experiencing earth in a set time and reality where there's none. None, not at all. Some will even tell you that, you see. This is where it is. It's a program still. It's still a concept and a belief that I am in a third dimensional physical matter, earth, Gaia reality. So this is where you keep finding yourself, do you understand? But when you quieten the parrot and go into a deep meditation, you drop, as I say, you completely bypass the mind, as you know, out of body. Boof, you can find yourself on another planet, completely having another experience in another life. Because that's the truth, literally. You've got to stop putting yourself in a time and a space and a place. You see, there's just nothing. That's the best thing to do. Drop it all. There's no planet, no earth, no this, no dimension, no anything. Nothing. There's just source. And this is what Emmanuel, I think, did as well. Same with if you focus on your light. Because he was obviously an awakened being, clearly. And exactly, expanded the light. And as they'll tell you, your cells are how many as strong as the sun. The same is experienced on so-called upon death, when the consciousness merges back with source. People talk about this bright light. you go into, poof, and you don't come back. Yes, because there's no you in the first place. You understand? The frequency now, it can rise right up again, poof. So this is what so-called Emmanuel did, but in the form knew that and disappeared, literally. The body will disappear, literally, out of this so-called experience. You will not see it, as he knew. Woof, you increase that frequency and vibration so much, boom, he obviously moved completely into another dimension, another space, or whatever, or back to source as no thing. And there was a witness to document it. He got that man to document this, ended up in the Bible. Literally. So the only reason why you, as consciousness, not as you as a person, there's no such thing as a person. It's a thought. Experience a body, a sensation of being in a set density, a place, this, that's because you believe this world around you is a set world in a set dimension with set things, objects. Everything's an object. The world is an object. That's an object, this is an object, they are objects, and that's exactly why you see you're still experiencing where there's only consciousness. And now I shared another video about this young man trying to demonstrate this whole story about DNA. There's another concept. It's a concept. Everything's made up. There's nothing here. Nothing, no thing. It takes on a form as a thing or a DNA because you say so. As you see, it's frequencies and vibration. It changes shape. Now they know, they call the mind, but it's a story maker. The story maker, the consciousness. There's only thing that is here. It's a non-physical. There's no brain, physical matter, physical thought, anything, any shape. You see, it shows pictures. You'll see those images. It'll show pictures because they are now looped because you believe it. So it's like a snapshot. It's taking a picture of a so-called story of the past because you believe it was real, the past. Poof, and you'll see them appear in your memory as a snapshot. It's a picture, an image that appears solidified. So I hope that helps understand. You'll see, as I'm saying, different so-called speakers or teachers, depending on what they followed and what they believe, will tell you, oh no, I'm source, but you know, in the body, and and this is a human experience, we're having this. Others will tell you, absolutely not, there's no body. There's no human. The body's got nothing. There's no body. They're not experiencing a body. You see, do you understand now how everything, every little thing, so-called things, because they aren't, you have named, labeled, or said it is so, is exactly the form as source that reality takes on, which is energy. Energy will take on that form. Okay, I'm now a guru having a physical experience and embodying it, and you know, that's it. That's what you'll experience. They don't experience anything. They've not limited themselves, our extraterrestrial friends, to any concept or set space or set dimension, because there isn't any. You are making it a set dimension, a set space, and there's an actual planet. You see, everything. That all falls away too. So that's definitely not. You will not experience an actual experience of a body. It's sensations. If you pay attention, they're not yours. You see, you feel sensations. They come in certain levels of waves. It's energy, waves of energy, which is being interpreted because you're playing the game. Oh, so if you label it and say, oh, that's emotion, that's sad, there we are. But if you don't, you just, oh, there's energy. You're feeling energy in the expansiveness of everything. There's no boundary, no border. There's just nothing. There's just this boundless, formless. You cannot find an end to it, a beginning to it. It has no form, no boundary. Literally, feel it yourself. Be quiet and just feel. You'll realize when you're swimming too, it's funny, you got this experience of swimming, but there's no difference between, you can't find a body and the water, any separation between it. Because there isn't any. Here we are. So that also is an experiential difference, is because if you believe I'm a human and I'm in a body and I'm talking to source, my higher, this, whatever, this is why you're experiencing geometric, as you see, the water takes on structure. So those that have had experience with this out of bodies and gone into a deep thing where you you completely snapped. You've snapped this link between the so-called this reality, and you've experienced yourself in another life, another time, another body, and think it's amazing. You can literally, you'll feel it. It's like zip, and it's like you exit this entire, as I explained before, you can exit this entire thing. But you keep coming back to the thing because you keep believing you are the thing and you are here in a set time and space where you're not. At all, not. So this is why we are seeing sacred geometry and structures, because we are saying it as source. It is a thing. So now, what is that? That thing now becomes a set, because now so say it's that pattern, it's now a flower. So now that frequency is going to stay there as that pattern. It's just a form. Under a microscope, it'll take up a certain pattern. It's now locked in a certain frequency. Why are you locked in a certain frequency? Because you've said, I'm a body, a human, having a human experience at this dimension, in this space. Yet there's other lives going on, having a very different experience in different bodies, different shapes, different spaces, different dimensions. How is that possible all at the same time, which you are able to move between, communicate? You see, if you really pay attention, you'll see it. There's really no thing here. What you're experiencing as emotions or feelings are energy, which coming through the magic story makeup, which you experience as a mind, but it's in a set, wherever. Even that disappears. There's no set thing. It's just within source. That story maker, you see, is now, it interprets those waves of frequency and vibration into things and objects and stories. And the mind, as I say, whatever has been held by all the energy which is making up the so-called body, you'll see as an underlying geometric pattern, because you are, and people say it as DNA, because that's exactly what you said you are, you see. So it's maintaining those frequencies, vibrations, and resonance, and same with the dimensions and stories. So I'll share that. That's very interesting. Very interesting. How these timelines are created. So, as there is no matter, no thing in existence, I can't make this more really fundamentally. It's the most important fundamental basis you've got to get around. I am no thing, no thing. I, that you believe, does not exist. If you believe there's anything in existence, problem, remove. There's no person, there's no thing, no flower, nothing. There is nothing. There is source. No thing, no shape, no form. Start with that and you can't go wrong. So this is interesting demonstration here. It's been made very clear. Even Bashar talks about it. He said, so people are seeing it and experiencing different versions of Earth, because there are just stories. Because you have labeled yourself as a thing in time and space, and you've been doing it for a long time, so there's many things and many stories going out, all consciousness. I'm a ET, I'm a Palladian, I was from Atlantis. I mean, this one's seen plenty of them in its own experience, and witnessed and been in many other bodies. And here's another thing shared: experiencing yourself as not a body, but as a particle. This body, this there's no body. How can I explain this? This consciousness, that's a pattern. You see, habit. The mind it's taken on. There's no such thing as a body. This consciousness experienced itself, as many other things. It's experienced itself in other lives, so-called lives, stories, as other humans, non-humans, time, space, as many have. It also experienced itself, it's quite amusing, as water. A most incredible experience, experiencing yourself as the elements. You can. People are doing that as well, moving them, because there's no people, you see. You can experience it. It was the most incredible. I think I've shared it on one of my lives, which I did upload, talking about working with the elements and Gaia. Experience completely out of the body, as out of this literal, actual experience, as though you're experiencing this life as a physical thing, as real. So this is what I'm saying. You drop into those. Literally had an experience of being a raindrop. It was that's why I shared that water thing. It is just source. It's the most incredible experience, finding yourself as water and then evaporating, going up into the cloud formation. I've been sharing that. And then how it was drawn in, how these tornadoes and things, how it's drawn to the hot water, opposite, hot, cold. Everything is opposite. Now I'll explain that too in the story. So the minute there's this cold, hot, evaporated air, it's immediately drawn to the cold water. This is why the storms form, because it's opposite. So now you've got hot heat is always an opposite. As soon as there's a story, you've created a thing. automatically reality creates the exact opposite. Now, this is a very interesting thing which just dawned, as I say. If you look, I've also shared this on my page. So these are downloads of sharing, who knows. If you look at atoms under a microscope or whatever, I've shared that as well on the page in our science. And as the Guru's always told you, the yin and yang, the light and dark, you see that circle with there's two dots in it for the light and dark. Now, when you are believing you are a thing, when you are playing a story, when you have labeled yourself as a separate anything, or you have labeled anything as existence, it automatically creates the exact opposite. So when you say, oh, I'm light, there's light, I'm an angel, it will create, as you notice in creation, what have you got? The exact opposite. It automatically does that. Why? To balance. If you look at the atoms, yes. Doesn't have to allocate anything. That's what I'm saying. That's the problem comes in is because you allocate it. Don't allocate a name or anything. That's the problem, as the gurus will learn. And that's why they shut up and didn't even talk, because as you talk, you're creating. And the minute you aside or take a side or a story, you say, okay, there's light or there's this. You immediately, this is what reality does. I'm just letting you know, and I'm going to give you some examples of proof here. The exact opposite will be created. So in the story, the more light you are saying, I'm a light worker warrior, you are going to see and experience the exact opposite, because like that atom showed you under the microscope, source, nature, will always balance. It's all about balance. It creates balance, which is happening now on the planet. It's rebalancing itself. Or anyone that allocates anything because they believe they're a thing themselves, you see. This is the problem. So they're going to keep experiencing things and looking for the things or whatever. So if you look at that, if you look at the structure of the atom, of the so-called energy source, so now you've got a physical representation in your story of this, and it's true, and I've shared the actual photographs of it, of the light and dark. You've got the one half of the so-called atoms bonded together, or two molecules bonded together. One is light and one is dark, with the holes exactly as that peace sign shows, the light and dark. This is what actually happens, and this is why they say don't say anything, or don't. This is why gurus, some that are already on a higher level, said nothing. Never make a choice. Why? Because if you choose something, good, bad, light, dark, this and that story, as nature shows you, what's going to happen is it's going to cycle around eventually to the opposite. You see? So you will, if you're going to be really wealthy, you're going to cycle around again to absolute poverty, because it'll just eventually balance itself out. Experience goes like this. If you're choosing experience, you're saying, and I'm an object and thing, and there's a story, there's a this and that, you're creating immediately it creates the opposite. So you will experience exactly, as you see more light and more this, the opposite appears. Doesn't mean you have to, it will appear to make an option, balance, the exact opposite. As you'll notice on Earth going on right now, there's good, new Earth. Oh no, we destroyed, the planet's destroyed, and it's catastrophe, and we're doomed, and the climate is this and that, you understand? That story is out there as an option, and so is the other one. No, new Earth is wonderful, heaven on earth, peace on earth, blah, blah, blah. As Bashar says, some will experience a negative ET contact. There are those that believe they're coming to get us, and we're going to invade us, and they're going to do this and take us over, and blah, 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 blah. Because there's a reality already created about wonderful ETs, about being one, about this and that. So yes, there are, and people have seen these timelines. You can move to them. They exist because they're a story. So like anything, it is happening already. It's a story. The minute one is created, the other one's created. So there are those that will experience negative ETs or battles with ETs, or destroying the planet and whatever, and all these things, and war. Because you've created peace, it'll create the opposite. This is all the so-called mechanism, the story mechanism, which is, if you want to call mind, if you want to call consciousness, whatever it is. The minute you start a story, you choose something, your attention as source focuses on something, it immediately, because you've now labeled something, you see, there's an object, there's something else than you as source. Nothing other exists than yourself. And this is why the gurus say they don't even choose. They'll sit there and they'll never make a choice. They don't use the mind whatsoever, and they let whatever comes up, which is the pattern, and go. Because if you don't say, oh, that's good or that's bad, you're staying neutral all the time. You see, you're not selecting something and labeling it. So if you say it's good, you're going to expand, but then it's going to loop around to experience the bad as well. No problem. Do you see? So here's an example. Very interesting and made very clear the other day. Very interesting. There was, oh yes, the whales, talking about the whales. This one was focusing on the whales and communicating with the whales. And I shared on my page, channeled all the stories, because there's no separation. In the story, as I'm saying, now you've got whales, which have taken on a form as an object and a pattern and a frequency, but it's all source. You know that's nonsense. So this is why you can communicate with anything and become anything, and experience being the rain, experience being the fire, if you want, experience being water. Oh, wow, it's an amazing experience. It is the most incredible, out of this world experience. Wow, just wow. You can experience what it's actually like as water, and to become a storm, and to become a tornado, and to evaporate, and to whatever. Oh my gosh. Then you understand how it works. It's quite simple. It's amazing. Anyway, because we're labeling it, but let's get away from that. I'm explaining now how to get out of the story, as the gurus do. They sit there and say nothing. They allow what happens to happen. Why? Because they know if I say I want this or prefer that, automatically the opposite is created. So I'm going to experience that or that, but eventually, like now, you see 1,000 years of for war, and then 1,000 years of peace, and then 1,000 years again of shit. Do you understand? Because automatically the mechanism creates balance. So when you're creating a good, it will create the bad. When you've experienced the height of the good, of the light, it's going to reverse back to the opposite. So the consciousness will revert back to experiencing the exact opposite. You see, you're going to go to the highest of the high angel, and then you're going to go to the lowest dimension, to the lowest. You see, in the story, and that's what he says. As the one goes higher, it's automatically created deeper, lower dimensions, more denser, more. You see, that's what it does, and that is very interesting. So this is why it's also, they say, don't make any choice, because as soon as you choose something, you see, you've now made a choice. You've separated yourself again, saying, I prefer this part of the self, where there's only the self. The self, it's going to balance. It's very true. If you understand that, you'll think, oopsie, you don't choose. You don't segregate yourself as that's me, that's not, that's good, that's bad, that's us, anything. That's a chair, that's a table. No. You stay as the self. All is the self, and the self only loves the self, as they tell you. There's only love. Because then you have not made it take a shape, a form, a pattern, solidified it into an object or a frequency. It's allowed to just be. And it can, as they show, it appears as any form. But you're still experiencing a set reality or dimension, because you still believe you are in a set time, space. You see, a dimension, experience. That can also be shifted, as you've quite seen. Amazing. So it's all about belief and definition of source, because that's only what you think is you, the awareness. It's pure awareness. But the minute this thing is activated, you pay attention to it. Or say, if you just stay as a seer, as seeing itself, you are just seeing. And you just see, you're just observer, you just stay here. And you don't label any energy that moves through the field as my energy, my body. It's good, bad emotion. You will not feel anything. And you don't label yourself as being in a body, or having a body, or as a body, or as a thing. You see? Then the actual reality can return to its actual structure, which is no form, as they tell you. No things. No thing exists. And that can all dissolve, as this one pushed the boundary once. As I say, you push in the story to one thing as a thing, believing it was a thing, still trying to dissolve. This one did that, stayed as the actual reality. Not in the body, watching the body, not identifying with anything the body did, any thought, anything. Literally, like the body doesn't exist. Ignored this as though it didn't exist. And exactly, for long, you found yourself, everything quietened down, thoughts really disappear. The whole reality can actually dissolve. Everything can dissolve back to nothing. I mean, literally nothing. There is no physical anything. So it's quite a bit of a shock to the system when there was at that stage still quite a belief. None of this wasn't known yet, understood, let's say. So it got to the stage where, yes, as the gurus, as people an awake experience, depends, there's different also levels of that. Everything was seen for a while, quite literally, experienced as nothing. There was just this, they were just empty forms, no people in them. There was just, as a movie. I mean, wasn't real. Nothing was real. You knew that. Nobody, and there was no thing. They were just, appearances of forms, and it was much quieter. It changes everything. The frequency changes, the sound, everything feels, everything changes because you've shifted completely. You see, you shifted, but still thinking you are here in Earth, experiencing an Earth. You see, then that was still here. That belief that yes, I'm the reality, but the reality of, you see, there's still a planet. There's still this. Well, anyway, never mind. Many interesting things have been experienced here. But it stayed with that, and that there's no body, there's no one that actually existed. And it got to the point where the reality was ready to literally, like I'm sure Emmanuel discovered, woof, and you're gone. So this is what happened. So no, you actually reality, you're everything, you are this no thing. And reality, as I said, started doing that, and you saw this and everything was experienced, and then it was okay. Then everything started dissolving around. This is not in a meditation. This is literally vividly awake. This was being experienced day, night, when this one was actually awake, doing things, going out. This was experienced. It wasn't a meditation experience. This is not an out of a body we're talking about. Literal experience here. And we were sitting on the bed and in the loo, and the reality started dissolving. Now, I can tell you, this is not a fantasy. This is factual. This is factually what's happening, how reality is actually being created. So, yes, exactly. That's what it is. It's energy forming. That's all it is. It's forming, and in the shape even of the story, of the so-called stories and timelines. So this one was, anyway, stayed with that, stuck with that. And reality now conformed to it. And next minute, I mean, as you say, you were well aware of who you were, what you were, that you were the creator itself. And reality started literally dissolving. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this. I'm not sure. Maybe that Asian lady has got to that level, because she said she's not appearing in it anymore, where the body will disappear in the story completely, because you, as you say, you're not. And this is what was happening here. Everything started to meld. Awake, wide awake. I mean, wow, it was amazing. And reality started morphing into, from, as I say, set objects now. They started loosening. And everything around, let's say, the bed, the things around, started losing their structure. And everything started becoming nothing. I mean, it's blended. So it was blending. Like the picture, you'd taken it and you'd now, it's like making a movie, but you're now, the chair is not a chair, not taking the solid form anymore. Everything started losing its shape, literally. And you and the body was all part of this, it started becoming one energy, but not in a set form. It started dissolving, literally. And as I say, next minute, there was this incredibly bright light. This energy shot up to wherever, the mind space. And it was obviously about to go poof. And you knew that everything was just going to disappear, like poof, into nothing. Like this blinding light, and there was no coming back. There was literally the dissolution of everything. And whatever, if it was, you say, the consciousness, whatever it was, the belief it was, I got such a fright, literally, at that time, because it knew what, that was it, bang, gone. There was no beyond, like there was just, poof, everything was going to literally disappear. I don't know, because we never got, as I said, the minute that happened, started happening in the life, and there was a cognition here through the story mind thing, whatever, because it believed it was a whatever, I don't know. Literally, it got such a fright. The mind kicked in and it just shut down everything. It took quite a bit to integrate all that. Wow. Because the things were ignored. It was at a quite a quick speed. So I think energy-wise, it wasn't ready yet. It had to integrate all of this. Wow. It was a big jump for the frequency and vibration, and yeah. Anyway, now there's a much deeper understanding of everything. There's no level. Do you understand what I'm saying? And there's a you. You see, there's a belief that you are an object and you are at a certain level. This is why you're experiencing being in a earth experience and as a set thing in a set time and space. The most fundamental thing you can do is there is no you. The minute you engage with the thought story, I call it the story mechanism. It's not a brain, it's no location either. You can't find a location for it. It just appears. They just start. And I say, what you realize is what you are, the programs that the so-called bodies are running now is whatever they downloaded. They are held in all those trillions of cells because there's a belief that there's a body and it's a shape and it's having a human experience, so it stays there. That can also disappear. The body does not need to be, you don't need to have a body to have an experience. This is what people think. I need to have a body to have a human experience. Absolutely not. As an Asian lady tells you, that's disappeared. There's no experience, there's no person in the story anymore. You don't need to render and generate a person, because you see, you believe without a thing, an object, you can't have an experience. It's not at all true. You don't need to be an object to experience as a physical reality or so-called dimensions, because you just have to say, well, I am consciousness experiencing a human experience, and that's what you'll stay at. But if I'm not experiencing anything, or there's no dimensions, I am source, I am existence itself, then you probably will experience yourself as all that is, as the ETs say. Why? Because then, as your consciousness has shown you, it can move through any story. You haven't created, a dimension, a time and space. You're making more boxes. There's this dimension, that, as though they're separate. But there is none. But in actual reality, story construct, tap in, you cannot find. This is where you've got to really cognize. If you pay attention to the actual experience, the feeling of it, you will not find, there's a dimension, there's a box, there's this and that, you see. When this one started back then, it believed it was in a body trying to get back to being the reality. Because the pattern was dissolving or whatever. Long story. So some very interesting experiences we had. But when you sit quiet and you're quiet in that mechanism and you exit this, you feel it's like poof, you're just gone. It's like you snap and poof, next minute is there. You are completely different reality. Different time, different space. Because there isn't any. But then you see you still believing you're a thing, experiencing another thing. This is the problem. Well, not a problem, it's just whatever. This is exactly what the source is believing. That's all. See? But there we are, just a warning for that one. And noticed here in the story, as I say, if you pay attention, you'll see it, was when this one started channeling all those whales and they were saying, what was going on or whatever, you're getting to hear from them. Some didn't like that one too much, but anyway. So you were sharing what the whales were saying and what, their story, what's happening in their story from their perspective. And talking about the whales, being silent and why they were silent, because he saw the people going on and were worried about this. So jumped in to ask and see what was happening, and I shared that channeling about the whales, why the blue whales have gone silent. Because that story was now, you see, it's a story still, because there's no things anywhere. There's a human and there's whales, so there's now in a story, because you're still believing a story. All of this can fall away. All of it can fall away. And then you're really going to have an incredible experience, because now you can get a much idea of really, really reality. You're got to drop all limitations, which means any story of anything that exists, or any object, or any dimension, or anything. There's just consciousness. And whatever it does, the energy forms as you think, believe it and see it. It actually forms and takes on that structure and space, as you notice. So, the story was checked into the whales. This consciousness checked into the whales and asked them, and it was told what, and I shared it on my page, why the blue whales were quiet. Interesting demonstration. Immediately after expressing that and uploading that and sharing that on TikTok, the exact opposite story was created and going around media and social media. The minute that story was downloaded, that's what it does. Reality will create the opposite as a balance, as a choice. It's just how it works, the yin and the yang. If you say you are a thing living, I'm having a life, you are creating something that's going to die. You cannot separate the good and the bad, the light and the dark, the death and the birth. Because the minute you create something, reality will create the exact opposite. So if you are born, there's going to be something that will die. That's also a story. None of them, there's no birth and there's no one that was born. There's no thing in existence to be born. But anyway, if you say that, you will have an experience of dying too. Because if it's all experience, it's all story. So this was shared with the public, just to put the mind at ease of those, let's say, depends. And the next minute, stories were generated on the internet. Doesn't matter how and who, because that's also just a story. It's just fabrication. Of exact opposite. Oh, the blue whales are dying. They've gone silent. It means they're starving because of climate change. So... Oh my gosh, you're going to laugh at this. And, so I'm saying, if you don't, it's not, there's no opposite. There's no good and bad, and it's only you. And it is only you. And as source, you create the choice always. If you want to make a story, understand, if you're going to choose anything as a side or a story, the exact opposite story will be created. You see? So next minute, there's stories generating all over the internet saying how the blue whales are starving. It's not, who's got the facts for this? This is what I'm saying. Who's got the facts? Where's the proof? Oh, they've gone quiet because they're starving because of climate change. Anyway, so I just laughed. You laugh. You was okay, whatever. That's just as I say. You see, you're creating a good, you're creating a bad, you're creating this. Always reality will create the opposite story. It's a balance, and this is why. Because in a story, the minute you've made a thing, those two atoms form, bond. You notice there's a dark and a light. As long as it's a story, it creates light and dark, good, bad, yin and yang, death and birth, happiness and sadness, wealth and poverty, peace and destruction, blah, 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 blah. Do you understand? It's a cycle. It goes around. As you notice, the planet. And this is actually, here we are. Scientists have proof of this. Where there was ice, there's now desert. Where there's desert, there's now ice. You see, cycles and changes. So now where there is been desert, it is now blooming. Saudi Arabia has dinosaur fossils. It was like a lush tropical, thing for so-called story. It creates a story immediately. Oh, look, there's a past. There's no past. There's no anything, actually. So in the story, all of a sudden, we had dinosaurs there, and it was like a lush, and I've been to deserts like that. I've seen all the fossils. It's incredible. So in the story, we've had this. What's happening right now? Saudi Arabia is becoming green again. The outback of Australia and some of the driest places on Earth. You see, Earth is changing like the cycle. She is rebalancing. Where this one had water and had heat, it's going to have the opposite. You see, so it moves around. The climate, the water level, the temperatures, the thing moves. Because it was this, it will change. And this is the wisdom of the gurus. Say, do not choose, do not buy into, don't use the mind, don't create anything, because it will create the opposite. So if you just allow things to be, then they will be, and you will not be bound to one side or the other, or one choice or the other. Where we make a choice is where you bind yourself to something, you see. Because then if you choose that, you're going to experience that, but you're also going to go around to experience the opposite. Yeah. Nothing. There's no we. This is what I'm saying. There's no we. This is emptiness talking to emptiness. Believing it's a body of whatever, it doesn't matter, a whale, a flower, literally. You can experience them you can experience any of them as the consciousness. You can experience this one has being the whale, being the water is the most incredible. Being a raindrop, is the most amazing thing. And then, as I say, evaporating and I just loved it. I shared it. It was it's just out of this world. So happy, so free, floating around, and then becoming a big cloud, and then becoming a storm and a tornado, whatever. And then now you understand. It's the opposite. Now you understand why that heat, when there's cold water, it makes such a big storm. The opposites attract. So this is why the gurus say don't choose. Just shush and be and observe. Don't take sides. Don't choose. Don't say it's bad. Don't label. And as you see now, the minute you label something, it takes on a physical structure, geometric patterns and forms or set frequencies. Until you unlabel it, it can't change. And everything really seeks to go back to source. But in the story, the yin and yang is a thing. So there we are. There's a proof of the whale story. The minute that came out, the exact opposite story was going around the internet. Same with the killer whale story. The messages that were channeled through the killer whales, and the killer whales been offering humans food and being nice and, and very intelligent, whatever else. The exact stories, exact opposite stories started appearing on social media. Killer whales attacking boats, all kinds of, opposite stories. You see? Because you're saying this is not, they're doing this, and then what appears, you see, why? So, because you've created a story, there has to be a balance of the opposite, so it can be chosen, and some will choose the opposite. But then they'll also understand, once they've experienced the negative experience, they will swing around, as Bashar says, the darker you go, the deeper you go into the darkness, the further you go into the light. And this was something on the awareness here, which is worrying you, thinking, well, then, is it wise to choose the highest and lightest thing? Because if you understand that, you're going to go, great, we're going to have this high light, peace on earth but then after that, what's going to happen? You can go as high as the light, but then you're going to cycle straight back in the opposite direction. You see? So by choosing and labeling something, you automatically create the opposite. That was noticed here. Doesn't matter if they do. People, as I'm saying, the consciousness gets to certain levels of awareness. As the more it dissolves in, the more it looks at whatever else, or who knows, dissolves, the more it will realize. There we are. It wakes itself up. It'll eventually just wake itself up. You get to these things. If it does, who knows, just does. So the more you stay, you're aware of what you are, and you stay there, the more obviously access you have to the knowledge of yourself and the truth. Because you are now embodying yourself as nothing. So you're aware of more of yourself. That's all. So those that are, the more they realize what they are, the more information there will be, the more they'll be more aware. Because it's them that's creating it all. There's nothing else. And we're like, oh. So yeah, that kind of made me think, hang on a second, if we, you see, this thing about positive thinking and labeling everything negative and getting some momentum, which is in the mind, only the mind, it makes a vortex. As Bashar said, you'll experience such a strong vortex of thought that you can't experience other. But then, look in the story, what happened. They came from that, you see, great darkness into, now they're going in the opposite direction. You see, it's going to cycle around. So then if you do that, you're going to lock yourself into the consciousness, into such a vortex of positive or light only, that eventually it's going to cycle around in the opposite direction. There we are. That's just, interesting.